Some of God's biggest blessings to us are things that people can't see. Some of God's biggest blessings are things internally that only people will have to experience. Hi guys, welcome back to She's Enough, hosted by Ayo Dele, Ayomi Day. I'm super excited to be here to film today's talk and connect with you guys because it's like we're going to be talking about healing. We're going to be talking about the H in She's Enough, which is such a big one. I don't know, it's so big. And I find that I'm like in the thick of it right now. Like I'm really in the thick of my healing journey. And it's been a journey. And it's beautiful though, because I feel like I'm at a point where I understand a lot of like what's going on. So I'm not too caught off guard. I understand. I'm patient. I show myself a lot more grace. In the beginning of my healing journey, let's go there. So when I started my healing journey, I felt like I really had no other choice. So I had just went through one of the hardest times in my life. It was the hardest time of my life at 21. I had just graduated college at 23, and I'm like, what's next? Like I didn't plan for what's next. So I just remember having a conversation with God, and it was just kind of like, okay, so and I talked about this in a previous video, and I was just like God told me, so you could either go left, which is self-destruct, or you can go right and seek me and we'll start the healing journey. And I just remember being like, I mean, I'm already internally dying. So it's just like, what do I have to lose at this point? Like I knew I wanted more for my life, but I really just didn't know how to. And I think that's really what the healing journey looks like. Like I feel like so many people want to heal, but we don't know how to heal. We don't know what's the first step, and like where do we go next? What tools do I need? Who do I talk to? Who do I need to talk to? Anybody who can help me on this journey? What does the journey look like? I had all of these questions. So my journey has just always been me and God. He always gives me one person on the journey, but honestly, I was just like I couldn't afford therapy, and I just felt like, okay, this is gonna be me and God. We're gonna thug it out. So I've been thugging it out with God on my healing journey for the past 6 years, and honestly, it's the best investment, best sacrifice, best choice I've ever made in my entire life. And a lot of times, I think when we think of healing, when I thought about healing, I thought it was going to be like I'm going to arrive at this destination. I'm going to be done. I'm going to be healed. I'm going to get over it. I think I had points in my life that I wanted to like check off. Like, so I had just went through one of the hardest times in my life, and I was like, okay, I can't wait till I'm healed over this and I get over it and I can move on. And then we can, go to the next thing, childhood, all this stuff, and I could just check it off. And it was just like, I quickly learned that, like, oh no, this is like a lifetime journey. This is not a destination. You won't just arrive and then that's it. Like, you will continuously arrive. You will continuously evolve. You will continuously grow. You will continuously be challenged. And that's what healing looks like. It's not a one way street. It's not. It's like you go in, you get out. You go in. It's like it's back and forth. It's like, oh, I arrived. Oh, I'm being stretched. Oh, I made it through this. Oh, I'm not over this. Like it's been so many times where I'm just like, okay, I done made it through this. I done made it through this. I'm passing the test. I'm passing the test, and then boom, triggered. Boom, situation. Boom. Like, it's just like, oh, maybe I'm not over this, or oh, maybe I got something else to learn, or oh, like, and I've always heard the saying of like, God will put you through the same test until you like get it. And he would just use different people or different situations to like test you. And that's what was basically happening to me because it was certain tests that I just kept failing. Yeah, so that was how I started my healing journey. So for me, it was sink or swim. You're already self-destructing, so it's just like, do you really want to keep going this way, or do you really want more for your life? Like, and I think for me, when I think about healing, it was just like I was dying silently, and that's like, to me, one of the hardest things, like the silent trauma, the silent pain, the silent challenges where you don't talk to nobody about. And I think honestly everybody is suffering in silence. Like some people have found their voice, some people have community, yes, some people have an outlet, but a lot of people suffer in silence. A lot of people keep everything internally, and that is like the quickest way to self-destruct. Like literally, you thinking you doing everybody a favor by keeping your mouth shut and not asking for help or saying, I simply need help. Like that's what I needed to do. I simply just could have said, I need help. But I just had this strong woman, strong young girl, poke your chest out type of mentality my entire life, because, and not because I always wanted to, but a lot of times because I felt like I had to, and that's a whole nother situation. But it's like, I wish if I was to tell my younger me something, it would be like, you don't have to be this strong girl your whole life. And even if you are this strong girl, saying I need help does not invalidate the fact that you're a strong young girl, strong young lady. You can need help and still be strong. You could say, hey, like this is a bit heavy for me, and still wear your crown. And I did not understand that. So I'm just truly happy that 23-year-old me decided to heal. Like, girl, you didn't know what you was getting yourself into 6 years ago, and I'm 29 years old now. And that was the best decision I could have made for myself. It's the most freeing thing I've ever done for myself. And that's why I'm able to sit right here and talk about my journey now, because I do feel like it's a part of my calling, it's a part of my purpose. And I no longer have to hold these things internally. But thankfully, I've dealt with a lot of things and found ways to dissect everything that I've been through, and release some of it, a lot of it. And that's why I'm able to be here. My biggest lesson in my 20s is to learn how to forgive. I've never known how to forgive people, and like the way God tells us we're supposed to forgive. Not the, oh, I forgive you, but I'm still throwing shade. Or I forgive you, but I'm still holding it against you. I forgive you, but we're talking about it every 6 months. I forgive, like, no, not that type of forgiveness. That forgiveness that is attached to grace, where I see you the way God sees us. Like, I love you and forgive you immediately, even when I don't understand, even when it does hurt me. Like, I forgive you because God says to forgive, 7 times 70. He tells us to forgive 7 times 70. He says if your brother or sister slaps you on your left cheek, turn the right cheek. And I remember reading that when at 23 years old, and I was just like, ain't no way. I don't know how to do that type of forgiving, because that's hard. The girls that hurt me, I did not know, like, and that's what God was using. Like, I have to forgive these women, these young girls. Like, I was a young girl too, but God was like, you gotta forgive them, and then you gotta go forgive your mother. That's where it all starts for me. Is go forgive your mother. And then, most importantly, forgive yourself. I thought God was teaching me how to forgive people all these years, and He was. But I realize right now in my spiritual journey with God that I cannot extend what I don't know how to receive. So I never knew how to forgive others because I never knew how to forgive myself. I never knew how to fully, truly love unconditionally because I never knew how to receive love from God and love myself the way God loves me. So it finally dawned on me that forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. And if I could have told myself anything, I would have started this healing journey way back, way back, way back. I would have started forgiving people a long time ago, because I thought if I forgave people, it meant I disregarded what they did to me. Or that would tell them that they can keep treating me how they are treating me. They can keep hurting me how they're hurting me, and they're gonna get away with it. No, babe. You forgive them. You relinquish control. You free yourself, and you give vengeance to God. You tell God, like, this is your child. God, I don't have the strength or capacity. I don't even know how. But God, like, show me. I want to love your children. And that's where I'm at in my life. I want to love God's children. So back then, when God was telling me to forgive these people, I never knew how to fully do it, because I never felt like God would forgive me for my sins. And I didn't know how to forgive myself for the things that I've done to myself, and then the things that I've done to others that I've hurted. And that's really where it starts for me. I think that people who don't know how to extend grace, love people properly, forgive people immediately. Like all these things is because you don't feel worthy of it. You don't feel like you deserve it. So you don't really know how to really give it and extend it to somebody else. And I think that's where you have to start. You gotta everything start with self. And that's what I've learned for me. Like I take accountability. I look within myself first before I point fingers and all these things. I try to look at Aya, what did you do wrong? How could you have done better? How could you have said this differently? Because a lot of times we're so quick to blame and point the finger, but it starts with you. And if you feel unworthy, undeserving, like how are you ever truly going to be able to walk this thing out the way God tells us to? So that was a big lesson for me to learn on this journey was the healing is not for the other person. And honestly, I remember my sister, she would always tell me like everybody has moved on. You're the one that's stuck here. You're the one that's stuck mentally, emotionally on what these people did to you. Everybody else moves on. That's the thing about suffering. We're suffering in our mind and in our hearts, but the situation is done. The people have moved on. Like it's just you that can't move on. And it's not about getting over it, it's about really working through it, growing through it, not just getting through it, growing through it. And I had to go back and I had to relive so many things because I needed to sit in that stuff. A lot of that stuff that I went through, I had just was like survive, 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 which was the S and she's enough. Survive, survive, survive. I was like, no, you need to go sit in that pain and that trauma because you're hurt. I am. You are hurt. You're a hurt little girl and she needs a hug. She needs to be told that she's loved. She needs to be told sorry. She needs to be told a lot of things. You are enough. You are seen. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. The child in me needed so much. It was very important to me to go back into starting from I wanted to start with the most recent situation I had just went through, which was what I went through in college. I needed to go and hug 21-year-old me. I needed to go and hold myself accountable too. What role did I play in all of this? How could I have changed things? But we're not going to stay stuck on how and why and all these things because that's what I did. I was stuck on why me, that it was hard for me to move on at some point. But it is important, I think, to go back, to sit in things, to sit in that emotion, to sit in those feelings and that accountability and that responsibility because that's the only way you really can grow through it, in my opinion, and through my experience. So that's what I did. I wanted to validate 21-year-old me emotions and what she had just went through, and it was tough. It changed my entire trajectory on life, and I didn't really understand that. I didn't really understand what just took place. So one of the things I had to learn back then was I had all these friends and all these people surrounding me, and I felt so alone. And I just remember feeling like, okay, when I start this journey, like basically, who gonna come with me? Who gonna journey with me? Who gonna give me the answers? Who's gonna help me? Who's gonna hold my hand? And I just remember learning like there's certain seasons that you have to walk alone in. Yeah, there are certain seasons that you need to walk alone in. There are certain seasons where it just need to be you and God. Because I had to learn when you're so busy around outside noise, hearing from other people, getting opinions, it's hard to hear from God. And I needed to journey alone. I needed to learn God's love, God's word for me and myself. And I think oftentimes we run from being isolated. So many of us are so scared to sit with ourselves because we don't know what's going to come out. I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know what was about to happen. And some of the stuff that did come out during this isolation season was scary because a lot of times we tell ourselves, "Oh, I'm over this," or "I'm not tripping. I'm good. We're going to keep it moving." Next, like we tell ourselves all these things and it'd be like, "No, pause. You're mad. Yeah, you're big mad. Actually, you're hurt. Yeah, you bothered. Your feelings is hurt. You angry. Like Like we be lying to ourselves. Like I was lying to myself. Like I'm like, girl, you just sat in jail. You just fought a whole case behind some females. Like you are angry. I'm upset. I have rage inside my heart. Like, no, I need to get that out. That stuff was festering up for 14 months, festering up. Like I literally could punch a wall and put a hole in it. Like I had so much built up anger. It was scary when I had to sit by myself cuz it was like a lot of times we tell ourselves because we don't say things out loud, we think, "Oh, like I don't really feel like that." How you really know you got some issues is not only by the things that you say and your actions, but by your thoughts. So for me, it's like, oh, my actions was good, check. The things I was saying was, you couldn't tell that I was bothered. You couldn't tell I was hurt. All these things, check. But my thoughts, which only you and God know your thoughts. And I couldn't lie to myself. I was like, my thoughts were so bad, were so unhealthy for myself and for anybody. I was a flight risk, okay? Somebody should have been scared of me. Because if I would have exploded at any moment on somebody, I was scared about what was going to happen. So oftentimes that isolated season, a lot of that stuff, a lot of that gunk, a lot of that anger, a lot of that nasty bitterness in your heart, it comes out. At least it came out for me. And it was very important for me to start to appreciate my isolation season because it wasn't that God didn't want me to be in relationships and connections with people and have community. It was just that no, I need to speak to you. I need you to hear from me clearly, you know? Like I need you to only depend on me. And if I would have had people around me in that season, I would have gave them the praise. I would have gave them the glory. I would have been like, they did this for me. And it was just like, no, don't nobody get the glory about nothing about my situation and my walk besides God. Not no friend, not even me. I don't get the glory because I could not do this on my own. There's just no way that I could have done all of this work internally by myself, by reading books, by watching podcasts, by sitting with myself. It's God. God did something with my heart, a heart that was so broken. I thought my heart was broken beyond repair. And that's what the healing is. That's what the healing is, and she's enough. I'm healing the pieces that I thought was broken. I thought nobody would ever be able to love me. I thought I was too broken for anybody to love me. I thought I could not love myself because like I was just all I saw was a broken little girl. All these years, even sometimes now, all I see is that broken little girl who people ignored, that people dismissed, that people never wanted to, uplift, that people talked about, that people made fun of for being too dark or too this or too that. Like all I've ever seen in myself was my broken pieces. And in this season, that's why I was saying I'm in the thick of it because in this season, I'm really, really, really learning God's love for me, which is allowing me to love myself wholeheartedly, flaws and all, imperfections and all. I'm really being able to see myself the way God sees me. And I've never been able to do that. And that is so freeing and nurturing for the child in me and even adult me because for so long I didn't think I could open up to a man or I didn't think I was going to ever want to make new friends. And this year, God really broke some chains off of me in my healing journey. Um, and I'm just so grateful. So it's just like we be thinking we don't want to do the hard things, but y'all, the hard things pay off. And a lot of times we look at all of God's blessings like it has to be these big things, these big, grand things that everybody can see. Some of God's biggest blessings to us are things that people can't see. Some of God's biggest blessings are things internally that only people will have to experience. And so when people are complimenting me and saying that I'm glowing and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, I'm like, first of all, my circumstance hasn't changed. It's not like I've accomplished the things that I want to accomplish, or it's not like I have $1 million, or it's not like I have the partner or the friend, all these things. It's like, no, God's doing a good work inside of me. Like he is shifting, he is molding, he is changing, he is transforming, he is renewing, restoring me. Like I don't think y'all understand. Like, and you will probably only know as you hear me speak or you experience me on a one-on-one intimate environment. But there was a point where I couldn't be social. There was a point where I feel like I had blood in my eyes or something. Like I felt like, and that's why my isolation season was so important. When I took those 2 years off of social media, yes, I took 2 years off of social media, guys. You will not die if you get off social media. And it's so important to kind of drown out the noise. So that's why for me, I have a hard time staying on social media because there's times and seasons where I'm like, I need to clear out the noise. I need to block out everybody. I need to lock in with God and I need to have clarity. I need to be grounded. I need to touch the grass and make sure it's still green. You know, like I need to be in tune with the spirit, with my heart, with me, my soul. And a lot of us are scared to do those things, but it's so important. I'm so grateful that I'm here. There's it's not to say that there's nothing that nobody can tell me about myself, but honestly, I've sat with myself for these past 6 years that there's really nothing that nobody can really tell me that God has not already revealed to me. And I might still be working on it, but I'm very much self aware. I'm very much in tune with who I am now, more than I've ever been. And I don't take it for granted because there was a point in time when I couldn't tell you about myself. There was a point in time where I could only tell you how other people perceived me and not what I perceived about myself, what I know to be true about myself. It's just like all I knew about me was the identity and the labels that people put onto me. And it's just like, that's not who I really am. And I had to get to know myself by sitting with myself in silence, with tears, with anger, with sadness. I had to sit in all of that with myself. And a lot of times it's always about somebody else. It's always about a friendship. It's always about a parent. It's always about a sibling. It's always about a partner. But it's just like, what about all the things that you do to yourself? What about all the pain and trauma that you put yourself through? I've I was hurting myself. When I was a little girl, I was hurting myself. And we'll get to that another time. But I'm like, I set the tone for how people love me, how people treat me, how people nurture me. And if I'm doing this to myself behind closed doors, you know, how does that leave space for people to treat me properly in healthy ways? So there's a scripture that I learned this year that has been very dear to my heart and I've held on to it. And it's Proverbs 23:7. And I believe it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. And that hit so close to home for me where I did not understand this ever because I knew I always struggled with my thoughts, but I didn't really understand like when the enemy gets close to your mind, when the enemy is using your mind as a playground, that is a dangerous place to be because if the devil can take your mind, if he could take your thoughts, if he could take how you see yourself, if he could change your belief system, he would change how you see God and how you walk with God. And for me, that's what he was doing over the years. My mind was what I could not overcome. That was it. I've always known like if I can overcome this mind of mine, if I can grab hold of my mind and my thoughts, I will be free. I will be free. So that's what I've been working so hard on is my mind, how I see myself. And you only can get to that by learning God's word and what God says so you can unbelieve those lies that the enemy has told you. I believe so many lies that the enemy told me, guys. You can't believe them. You have to fight what the enemy is telling you with what God is telling you, what God says, what God already said. It's not even what God is telling you, what God already said. Like it's already done, it's already written. The enemy only got so many tricks. So it's like you can't allow him. And this is, I wish I knew this, guys. Like I wish I understood the depth of the lies that he was telling me. And I didn't have to believe them. Even if he's using my closest friend, even if he's using somebody that I love dearly, even if he's using my mother, I don't got to believe these lies because God still loves me. God still sees me. God created me. God has a purpose for me. And it's important to really understand that because that's a dangerous place to be, guys. And I was there my entire life. It got worse after every situation. So by the time I caught that case, how I saw myself was so little. Like I thought so little of myself that when it was time to rise to this person and walk in these things that God was telling me to do, I couldn't do it. Even last year, I was struggling. I moved to New York. God's steady telling me I can do all these things. And I'm steady doing them, but not to the capacity of what He's called me to do it. Like I'm always trying to play it small. I'm always trying to play the fence. I'm always trying to like downsize who I am. And it's just like, no, babe, you don't have to continue to carry the burden or the labels of what other people have put onto you. That is not for you to carry anymore. So release it. I wanted to release it so badly. So I started to realize like how people see me is no longer like my job to care. How people show up for me, how people value me. Like, yes, I want to do my best to like make sure I have the right people around me, but if I somehow have the wrong person around me, or maybe they don't value me, maybe they don't see me, maybe they don't love me, I know I don't have to internalize that and make myself feel less than because they don't see my value. That's not my job. And I'm not in the business of forcing people to love me. I'm not in the business anymore to make people see me the way God sees me. That's my job and my job only. It was very important to me on this journey to get to the root. So when I'm always telling people like I got to get to the root and figure out where some of these things are stemming from, I think that's very important because I can't keep putting band-aids over these wounds. So for me, it was just like it's something in my childhood. So like I'm getting closer and closer and I feel it and I know it, but it's very important to me to get to the root of what makes me who I am. I want to know what I went through as a child because there's certain things that we go through. So I talk to myself like I'm a therapist. Like I don't have a therapist, so I try to hit those blind spots that a therapist would hit because they're just asking me questions that I probably wouldn't naturally ask myself, but I naturally ask myself these questions. I want to know why I do what I do. I want to know what little things add up to these bigger things. Like, I want to understand what what makes me who I am. I want to understand what makes my partner who he is. I want to know what he's been through. I want to know everything about the people that I love. If it was up to me, I'll probably sit down with everybody and be talking all day. I'll probably have my closest friends go on a trip and we just no phones, we just talk, we do these activities and we do these things that really allow us to dive deeper and get to the root because when you get to the root, you're really able to build a solid foundation with yourself, with self identity, with love, like true love, God's love. And that's been very important to me. So, although I haven't had a partner and I'm just now opening myself up to new friendships, I need my foundation with how I see myself and understanding God's love to be pretty solid. And I do feel like I'm there. And I'm still digging, I'm still learning, I'm still being stretched, I'm still being challenged. But healing is not for anybody else but for you. I'm so proud of 23-year-old me for making this decision that 29-year-old me now can walk in, that I can now help other people. I often try to challenge the people around me, encourage them to sit with themselves, to focus on self discovery, self development, personal development, all of these things, and just learning God's word for ourselves because nothing in this world really matters, guys. And honestly, God tells us in the Bible we are not up against flesh and blood. We are up against bad spirits and principalities. I don't know exactly what he said, but we're up against higher, more stronger things than we even can fathom. And I know that for a fact because of what I've experienced in a spiritual realm. We are up against way stronger things than what we think. It is not the little things that we be stressing about. It ain't the money. It ain't the friends. It ain't the girl hating on you. It ain't the man cheating on you. It ain't that's little stuff. We are up against some real strong demons, and the enemy is at work, and he's using those things to like distract us. Nah, baby, sit with yourself. Learn and hear from God for yourself. Build your own relationship with God for yourself. It's not enough to go off of your friends' words or going to church once a week or even just listen to your parents and all this stuff. Like that's not enough. I hear God for myself now, and if it ain't from God, I don't even want it. So yeah, this current season, we're always healing. It's a forever journey. It is something that you will be grateful that you started. It's a journey that you will be proud of embarking on. It's a journey that will benefit you and everybody around you. It's a journey that the child in you will be nurtured from. Like she will be nurtured or he will be nurtured. So take the time. It's a forever journey. So you just gotta start one day. Maybe start asking yourself certain questions. It's only you that can answer it, you know? Nobody else is not a right or wrong answer, but only you know the truth. And I think that's what it is. I'm seeking truth. I want to walk in truth. I want to walk in authenticity. I want to walk in my fullness, in my whole entire being. I don't want to walk around half whole, half broken. I don't want to walk around empty. I don't want to walk around hurting people, bleeding on people who didn't have anything to do with what I've been through, who don't deserve it. And even the people that I think may deserve it, they don't deserve it. I don't want to go around intentionally or unintentionally putting my pain onto people. And also, I don't want to keep hurting myself. That's what's important. Yes, I don't want to do all these things to all these people. I don't want to do these things to me anymore. I don't want to suffer in silence. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to be mean to myself. I don't want to feel unworthy for God's love and God's blessings. I want to be able to walk in everything that God is telling me that He's called me to in fullness. Not half, but in my fullness, in my fullest capacity. And I want to love properly. I want to love people the way God loves me. I want to love people the way God tells us to love his children. And I want my children to experience me in my fullness. I don't want to be a half mother. I don't want to be a broken mother. And I'm not saying I will have it all figured out by the time all of this happens or whatever. I will always have things to work on. But I want to give it my best shot. I want to give my partner a healthy partner. I want to give my kids a healthy mother. I want to give my siblings a healthy sister. I want to give my friends a healthy friend. I want to give my parents a healthy daughter. And being a 29-year-old woman, I pray that my 30s is nothing but that healthiness, healing, fullness, wholeness. And that's she's enough. She's me. She's you. And I'm so happy to be on this journey. I'm so happy to even just be sharing my truth and just where I'm at on my journey. And until next time, guys, be blessed. Have a great day.